Welcome to r/entitled parents, where a wild Karen hacks into her daughter's Facebook to sell essential oils. My mom hacked into my Facebook to promote her essential oils, and it went very, very wrong. Alright, buckle up. This is one of the craziest things that's happened to me in a while, and I have to vent about it because I honestly don't even know what to think. I'm usually the kind of person who keeps my Facebook pretty chill, posting the occasional meme or some pictures of my dog being cute. Simple stuff, right? I have about 300 friends on there, mostly friends and family, nothing fancy. So a few days ago, I log into my Facebook and I see a bunch of posts that I didn't make, like a lot. My heart starts racing a little because I've heard stories of accounts being hacked and I'm not about to be the next victim. But then I take a closer look and I realize something horrifying. All of these posts were promoting my mom's essential oils business. If that's not bad enough, they were posted like they were coming directly from me. You know, I love my mom and all, but she is, how do I say this, very enthusiastic about her essential oils. I mean, she's the type of person who thinks peppermint oil is the cure to everything. Stomach ache? Peppermint oil. Can't sleep? Lavender oil. Feeling down? Yep, more lavender oil. It's like her personal little store exploded in our house, and now she's on a mission to share it with the world. And she's been pestering me for months to help her promote it. She's like, "Honey, you have so many followers. You could just post a few things about my oils, and you will see how people will buy them." I've tried to explain that I'm not about that life. I don't like pushing stuff on people, especially when they're my friends. But she just didn't get it. So I said, "Okay, Mom, let's not make a big deal about it." I thought I could avoid it and just keep my distance. Well, guess who decided that keeping my distance meant logging into my Facebook to make the posts herself? I was freaking out, trying to scroll through all the posts, feeling like I was in a nightmare. It was like my mom had turned my profile into a full-blown essential oils infomercial. Feeling stressed? Try my mom's essential oil for just $20. Message me for details. And the worst part? The post was signed with my name like it was from me. Another one was about feeling bloated after your meals? Try peppermint oil, available for $15 a bottle. DM for details. I felt like my entire feed had been hijacked by my mom's MLM dreams. I picked up my phone and dialed her number, shaking my head, already knowing this was about to be a conversation I'd never forget. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey honey, how's your day going? Did you see my posts on your Facebook?" she asked, all casual-like. I took a deep breath. "Mom, what the heck did you do to my Facebook account?" She didn't seem to catch on. "I just posted about the oils. You know, I've been telling you that you should promote them for months now. It's just a few posts. Don't worry about it." "A few posts? Mom, you've been spamming my Facebook like a madwoman. You made it look like I'm the one selling this stuff," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, but not succeeding. "Oh honey, come on. You're helping me. You're going to help me grow my business. People need this stuff, and you know it. You should be grateful. It's an easy way to make a few extra bucks on the side. Plus, you know how many people are into these oils these days. It's a whole trend." "Mom, I don't want to be part of this. This is your thing, not mine. I didn't sign up to be your free advertising space." I could feel my frustration building. She sighed dramatically. "I'm just trying to help you. You have so many people on your Facebook. This could be your big break. And you should have seen how excited your Aunt Linda was about my peppermint oil. She said it cured her migraines." I rubbed my temples. "Okay, but why did you log into my account and do this? Do you even think for a second that I might not want my personal Facebook turning into a place where I'm hawking oils to all my friends?" "Oh please, everyone loves a good deal, and I know you're getting the messages from your friends telling you how great the oils are. Look, I just took the initiative. Plus, you're helping your mom out. I thought you'd be happy that I'm getting word out. I'm doing this for us, honey." I took a deep breath. "I'm not promoting this. You need to take down all these posts." She paused for a second before coming up with her classic line. "Oh, but you can't just take it all down. Think about the potential here. I've put so much work into building up my little business, and this could really blow up." "Mom, this is my Facebook page, not your business page," I snapped. "I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, sweetheart. It's just a few posts. You're overreacting," she replied, clearly not getting the severity of the situation. I was done trying to reason with her. I spent the next hour manually deleting every single post she made. I was seriously considering changing my Facebook password just to avoid this happening again. But then the final straw came when I saw she had posted a story using one of her essential oils as a miracle cure for insomnia and tagged me in it. I was livid. I called her back, voice shaking. "Mom, you tagged me in the story? Do you understand how creepy and invasive this is? What if someone sees this and thinks I'm endorsing your oils? That's not okay." She was quiet for a moment and then said, "I was just trying to help, sweetie. You know I don't mean any harm. I thought you'd want to help me succeed. I thought you'd want to help people." "I don't care about helping people through your business, Mom," I shouted. "I just want to have a normal Facebook page without you turning it into an ad." There was a long pause, then she sighed heavily. "I'm sorry, honey. I just got excited. I really think this could work, and I didn't mean to overstep. I didn't realize how much I messed up." "You can't just do whatever you want with my stuff, Mom. You need to ask me before posting on my Facebook ever again," I said, feeling drained, but hoping she would finally understand. She was quiet for a while before finally saying, "I'm really sorry. I'll take everything down right now. I promise I won't do it again." And she did. She deleted all of the posts. But let's just say, I've never been more upset with my own mother in my entire life. It was like I was living in a bizarre alternate reality for a few hours there. I've since changed my password. I haven't had any more incidents, but I'm pretty sure she's still hoping I'll come around and promote her oils. I'm just not ready for that. "I'll do whatever I want in my own yard." "Okay, I'll make it impossible to enjoy your air then." Last spring, my old neighbor, who was a saint, sold her house and moved away. The people who moved in were a nightmare. The guy, let's call him Pete, drives a new black Mustang that sounds like it has no muffler. Every evening, and I mean literally 5 days a week, he revs the engine up and down the subdivision streets when most of us, myself included, are just trying to relax on our back porches and watch TV during the summer. It's relentless. But it didn't stop there. Pete also drives up and down the state highway that runs behind my house, making the noises even worse. Since the speed limit on that highway is 55 miles per hour, the Mustang roars down it even louder, and you can hear it for miles. It doesn't help that he has friends over regularly, and they all hang out in the backyard, revving the car for fun. It's so loud that you literally can't do anything but wait for it to stop. The neighbors and I were all fed up, so there was a big conversation in our HOA Facebook group. Several of us politely asked Pete to stop the noise, but his response was pretty rude. He said, "I pay a lot of money for this house. I'll do whatever I want in my own yard. And the streets are public." So yeah, it was clear he didn't care. Well, I didn't like that at all. I decided I'd handle it my way. Some context. Our subdivision is big, with about 150 houses spread out over 300 acres. Most of the properties range from 1 to 4 acres, and I have a 3-acre corner lot. A while back, there was an agreement between the HOA, the neighbors, and the former owners to sell part of the land. So my next-door neighbor has the smallest property in the subdivision, only about half an acre. The only side of Pete's house that isn't bordered by someone else's fence is the side that faces my house, and trust me, that became very important. I've lived here for 15 years, and one thing I've learned is that whenever I have a fire on the side of my yard next to Pete's, the smoke always drifts towards his house. I learned that the hard way when I couldn't even have a fire when my old neighbor was outside, because the smoke would fill her backyard. So I moved my fire pit to the other side of my house over a dozen years ago, just to avoid bothering my neighbors. But Pete's noise reminded me how much I enjoyed having my fire pit back in the middle of my yard. It took me a weekend to dig up the pavers, move them back to the center of my backyard, and get a nice fire going. Now I just had to wait for Pete to have people over. I made sure the next fire was extra special, making it a good one. Pete had his friends over, and it was a nice day, so I got the fire started. But here's where it gets good. I made sure to add the wettest, nastiest wood I could find, and within 10 minutes, Pete and his friends were visibly disgusted by the stench, so they all went inside. They came back out a little while later, and I added more wet, awful wood to the fire. They went inside again. I kept this up all day long, and when the fire started to die out, I threw in a bunch of grass clippings to keep the smoke going overnight. The next day, the fire was still smoldering, still stinking up the air. It was perfect. I even put up a post on the HOA Facebook page letting everyone know I'd be using my fire pit a lot from now on, and if anyone had lawn scraps, they could drop them off. Within hours, about 20 people responded, offering their clippings. So I kept the fire going, and my dogs were on high alert anytime Pete or anyone else was in their backyard. When the dogs started barking, I'd add more clippings. It was like clockwork. For about 3 weeks, I kept that fire burning. Finally, Pete and his wife came over and asked me, very politely, what was going on with the fire pit. Pete's wife explained that her hair would smell like a campfire if she spent any time outside and that they could smell the smoke coming into their house through the ducts. Pete added that it was making it hard for him to enjoy his backyard with his friends. They asked me if I could tone it down a bit because, as they put it, I probably didn't know how much it was affecting their home life. I looked at them and, in the most objective way possible, said, "I understand how sometimes we don't realize the impact our actions have on our neighbors until they tell us about it." Then I said, "I also believe in doing whatever I want in my own yard, just like you do, Pete." Pete's face completely froze, and his wife looked at him, and it finally clicked. She said, "I get it now. You won't hear the Mustang anymore." I smiled and said thanks, and just like that, I put out the fire. I haven't heard the Mustang since. Pete and I don't really talk much anymore, but honestly, I'm not too bothered by it. I got my point across without even having to escalate things, and I haven't been disturbed by that Mustang since. You want your uniform back? Come and get it. I used to work in a hotel as a porter, someone who carries guest luggage and helps them find their rooms. Our uniform was nothing special, just a white shirt, black pants, and a black vest that they gave us. I worked there part-time, but I also had another part-time job at the post office. When they hired me, I made it clear that I had another job and I explained the situation. They also asked me what I'd do in case of conflicting shifts, and I told them I would prioritize whichever company booked my time first. So if the post office scheduled me to work from Wednesday to Saturday and the hotel asked me to work those days later, I'd have to say I was unavailable. I promised them that I would always stick to that agreement, and they seemed fine with it. For over a year, this arrangement worked out perfectly. There were no issues, no conflicts, and I always kept my word. Then, one day, out of nowhere, I got a call from the hotel. They told me I was needed for an upcoming weekend shift. The problem? I had already booked a shift at the post office. I explained this to my hotel boss, and I told him that I couldn't accept this shift because I had a prior commitment. He didn't take it well. "Well, this is a huge contract," he said. "We've got a massive wedding happening that same weekend, plus a big conference. We need all hands on deck." I calmly reminded him that I couldn't work the shift if it conflicted with the one I'd already committed to. That's when he started getting pushy, trying to guilt trip me. "We need to be able to rely on you," he said, his voice getting more impatient. "This is a big event for the hotel, and we need everyone to be flexible." I stayed firm, pointing out that they had been able to rely on me for over a year, and I'd always honored my commitments. I reminded him that I had already agreed to work at the post office. I also made it clear that it wasn't fair for them to demand I work a shift I hadn't agreed to. He didn't like that one bit. He was definitely upset, but he hung up without firing me. For the next month, I noticed a shift. I wasn't getting any shift offers, not a single one. It became clear that they were trying to push me out without officially firing me. I called multiple times asking if there were any shifts available, but I was always met with a cold, "We have nothing for you right now." It was obvious I wasn't getting any work, and it started to feel like they were trying to phase me out. No big deal, I just picked up extra shifts at the post office. The pay was almost double what the hotel offered, so honestly, I wasn't even upset about it. I was actually happy to be rid of the hotel. A couple of weeks later, my direct supervisor at the hotel called me out of the blue. He asked if I could return my uniform vest. I was a little confused. I hadn't been fired as far as I knew, so I asked him why I needed to return it. He just kept sidestepping the question and wouldn't tell me if I was officially fired. He kept saying, "We need the uniform back. You have to return it." I replied, "No problem, but I won't be dropping it off in person. I can send it, but I won't be driving it all the way to you." The hotel was about a 30 to 45-minute drive from where I lived, and I wasn't about to waste my time delivering the vest. He was taken aback and tried to pressure me. "You have to return it," he insisted. "It's part of your contract." I agreed, saying, "Yes, I know the contract. It only says I have to return the uniform when requested. It doesn't say anything about how or when I should return it, so you can send someone to pick it up when it's convenient for me." He stuttered, trying to find a way to convince me to drive it to him. It was hilarious watching him scramble. The power balance had completely shifted now that they weren't offering me any more shifts. I told him I'd check my calendar and that he could call me back in a couple of days to arrange a time that worked for me. It was petty, I know, but hearing his frustration was honestly the highlight of my day. I could hear the annoyance in his voice as he tried to figure out how to make me do what he wanted, but I wasn't backing down. He finally gave up and said, "We'll send someone, so be ready." I said, "Great, I'll check my schedule and you can contact me when you're ready." He never did send anyone to pick up the vest. I ended up keeping it, and a few weeks later, I used it as part of a Halloween costume. I dressed up as a zombie hotel porter, complete with the vest, and honestly, it felt kind of satisfying. The hotel never formally fired me, but it was clear they were done with me. In the end, it was a weird, petty little victory. I got more shifts at the post office, made better money, and never had to deal with my boss's nonsense again. And the uniform, well, it made for an excellent Halloween costume. New neighbors are blasting music through our thin walls, and I'm about to get petty. About a year ago, the townhome next door was purchased by a military couple. When they were moving in, my wife and I went over to introduce ourselves, and everything seemed fine. The wife was friendly, and the husband was quiet. No big deal, right? I actually prefer quiet neighbors who keep to themselves. Our previous neighbors were great. We never heard a single sound from their home. But shortly after the new neighbors moved in, we started to realize that the shared wall between our homes is ridiculously thin. First off, they have a couple of dogs. Whenever they're not home, the dogs bark nonstop for hours until someone comes back. My wife and I work from home, so the barking is constant throughout the day. It's annoying, but it's just dogs being dogs, so I've learned to tune it out. The real problem started when they must have mounted their TV and subwoofer to the shared wall. Now, every time they watch TV, listen to music, or do anything with bass, it blasts right through the wall. So while my wife and I are trying to relax after work, we're forced to listen to whatever they're watching. And they always have the bass cranked up. So from 6 p.m. until they go to bed, it's just this constant mix of muffled talking and thumping bass. Occasionally, they'll blast music at all hours of the night. I'm talking full volume, with bass thumping so hard it shakes the house, well past midnight. It doesn't even stop when we go upstairs to our bedroom. The sound just echoes through the whole house. One night, around 1 a.m., they were blasting music so loud that I had had enough. I went over to their place and knocked on their door. No one answered, probably because they couldn't hear me over their music. So I left a polite note saying, "Hey, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the walls are really thin, so we can hear the noise from your TV and music. If you could please keep it down, especially late at night, we'd really appreciate it." The next day, I got a note back from the wife. She apologized profusely and said they'd keep it down. Great, right? Well, no, the noise did not stop. In fact, it only got worse. Now, it's like we're not even on speaking terms. I'm guessing the husband didn't take the note well and is intentionally being louder to annoy us. At this point, the whole situation has become pretty awkward. I know he knows he's being loud. One night, when his music was blaring at 1:30 a.m., I started knocking on the shared wall and yelled at him to turn it down. If I can hear him singing along, he can definitely hear me shouting to turn it down. What does he do? He turns it up. So yeah, he knows. He's just being difficult. At this point, I'm done being nice and I'm getting petty. I really don't want to call the police. I'm worried that'll escalate things with my neighbor, who clearly doesn't care about the fact that his home is connected to other people who don't want to hear his TV and music blasting all the time. So I decided to get creative. I placed my soundbar up against the shared wall, and whenever I hear noise coming from their side, I turn on some really bass-heavy white noise. Honestly, it's kind of soothing, and it blocks out about 90% of the noise on their side. But I'm sure it's just making their whole wall rumble with bass on his side for hours on end. I'm hoping it's bothering him as much as his noise bothers us. I can't say if it's working, but at this point, I'm out of ideas. I don't want to escalate to the point of calling the police, but I'm really not sure what else to do. Any suggestions? It would be nice if he gets stationed somewhere else in a year or so, but honestly, that's probably just wishful thinking. I really miss my old neighbors. They were perfect. I was on active duty for 10 years. File a complaint with his base commander. That will likely put an end to it. At least when I was in the military, the command takes complaints from civilians very seriously. Document everything. Discovered my mom was adopted. Now her birth family wants her to care for the woman who gave her up. I, 35 female, grew up in Austin, Texas, but my background is a bit more complicated. My dad, who's 70, is Canadian, and my mom, who's 68, is Greek. Every summer we'd go to Greece to visit my maternal grandparents, so I've always had a strong connection to the country and its culture. When I was 25, my parents retired and moved permanently to Greece after my mom inherited a house and a decent chunk of money from her mother when she passed away. That's when everything started getting really complicated. During my grandmother's last few months, my mom went to Greece to care for her, as she was no longer able to care for herself. In those final days, my grandmother dropped a bombshell. She revealed that my mom wasn't her biological child. She had been adopted. Apparently, my mom was the daughter of my grandmother's cousin, and decades ago, in Greece, it was common for struggling families to give children to relatives who couldn't have kids. This hit Mom hard. She had never known the truth, and it shattered her to learn that she had been in the dark for her entire life. After my grandmother passed, my mom made the decision to reconnect with the family she never knew. She went to the area where her biological mother lived and met her for the first time. She also met her 2 older brothers and a younger sister. Her oldest brother was especially emotional, as he vaguely remembered the day my mom was given away as a baby. My mom was devastated by how distant and cold her biological family was. They explained they never tried to find her because, well, they knew she had moved to the US, and tracking her down seemed impossible. Her biological mother, however, said she made a pact with my adoptive grandmother never to reveal the truth. To top it off, the entire village had been told that my mom had passed as a baby, so no one questioned it. My parents have now been living in Greece for 10 years. While my mom has grown close to her siblings, her relationship with her biological mother has remained distant. My mom can't get over the fact that this woman kept all her other kids but gave her away. I think it really hurt my mom that she was treated like a burden just because she was a girl. In the old days, boys were valued more because they could work the land, while girls were seen as more of a financial burden. 2 years ago, I moved to Greece as well, after my parents' inheritance allowed us to live comfortably. It's honestly been a dream for me. We live in a peaceful area near the capital, and life here is much calmer than back in the US. Now, here's where the issue starts. My mom's biological mother is now 96 years old and is in very poor health. Her biological father passed away years ago under political circumstances. Her 2 older brothers, along with their wives, have been taking care of their mother, but they are worn out. Tensions have been rising between them, and at a recent family gathering, they told my mom she should help to take care of her biological mother too, because it's unfair for just them to do it alone. When my dad found out, he was furious. He said my mom should have cut them off completely, but my mom refused. She doesn't feel any emotional connection to this woman. She's not close to her and doesn't want to forgive her for abandoning her. My mom has also no legal claim to any inheritance from her biological family, which complicates things even further. While my mom doesn't feel obligated to help care for this woman, she does care about her siblings and doesn't want to lose the connection she's built with them and their kids. She's under a lot of pressure and is really upset about the demands being placed on her. When I found out, I was livid. How dare they ask this of my mom? They know exactly what she went through, and they're trying to manipulate her into helping out. It feels completely unfair, and I hate seeing her being taken advantage of. I'm getting married next month to my fiancé, who's Greek and fully supportive of me, and I'm seriously considering uninviting my biological uncles and their families from the wedding. I want to make a statement that we no longer want any contact with them, but my mom is hesitant. She doesn't want to escalate things, even though she's hurting. I really think my mom is mourning the idea of a family she never had, rather than feeling a deep connection to these people. She's not as attached to them as she believes. It breaks my heart to see her struggle with this. I've always idealized the strong family bonds in Greece, but now I'm starting to see that things aren't always what they seem. I'm honestly so disappointed in this situation. So, what would you do? Should I cut ties with them? Should I uninvite them from the wedding? How can I help my mom navigate this difficult situation? My mom suggested they find a senior care facility for her biological mother and even offered to pay a quarter of the cost. My uncles were offended, saying it was disrespectful to put their mother into a nursing home, which is common in Greek culture. Even though they're financially comfortable, a quarter of the cost, 400 to 500 euros per month, is a reasonable offer. Still, they want to take her into their homes for a few months, and I feel like that's not a fair solution either. Update. So here's where things stand now. Over the past few years, my mom has learned a lot about her adoption and the family she didn't know about. Unfortunately, the truth about her biological family isn't pretty. A few years ago, Maria, who's the wife of one of my biological uncles, sat my mom down and shared some pretty shocking details. It turns out my biological grandma was a very strict and bitter woman who treated everyone poorly, including the people who worked for her. She never wanted daughters. In fact, she tried to give away her other daughter too, but that adoption didn't go through. My biological aunt had a tough childhood, and that's one of the reasons she moved abroad. Her brothers didn't support her, and they even cheated her out of part of her inheritance. Now Maria is thinking about divorcing her husband, my biological uncle, since their kids are grown, and she doesn't want to stay married to a man who she knows isn't a good person. As for my mom, she never felt much of a bond with her biological mother. But after hearing all of this from Maria, she's made the decision not to have much contact with them at all. She's always known what kind of people her biological brothers were, and she never wanted a close relationship with them. The truth is, they're not in daily contact anyway, but she does feel attached to her nieces, nephews, and their wives, so that's the only reason she hasn't completely cut ties yet. My mom has decided she will offer financial support, but she won't bring biological grandma into her home. This is mainly to support her biological sister, who's under a lot of pressure from their brothers to take care of their mother. My mom has tried to get closer to her sister over the years, but her sister has kept the distance. She explained that growing up with their mother was so bad for her that she needs emotional space. Still, she's happy that they met. Last Christmas, my biological aunt came to Greece and stayed at our house. I wasn't there because I was visiting friends in the Netherlands, but my mom and her sister spent time together and it helped them to bond more. My aunt told my mom to cut off her brothers completely and even invited her to move to her country. She said she only wants a formal relationship with the rest of the family, except for my mom, who she loves dearly. For those who are skeptical, my aunt is financially independent and comfortable. She's never asked my mom, or anyone else, for anything, so I fully trust her. Up until now, I didn't know most of this. My mom never wanted me to see my uncles in a bad light. She still thinks she can maintain a minimal relationship with them, but she's especially close with a few of her nieces and nephews, and she doesn't want to lose that connection. One of my cousins, Maria's son, even confided in my mom that he's considering cutting ties with his father. When my biological uncle asked my mom for help, this cousin, who's only 25, pulled her aside and warned her not to give them anything, saying they don't deserve it. That really struck a chord with me. It showed me that not everyone in this family is selfish and manipulative. I actually have a good relationship with this cousin. He and my fiancé get along great since they work in the same field. After hearing all of this, I met up with him last night and we talked. He's moved out on his own, but still keeps some contact with his dad, mainly because he wants to wait until Maria leaves before he completely cuts ties. He told me that his father and uncles inherited a lot of wealth and never had to work for it. They started businesses, but when they struggled, they took large sums of money from biological grandma and other relatives. Now they've recovered and live comfortably, but they've never paid back what they owe. My cousin is ashamed of his family's actions and doesn't want to be judged for them. He also believes they're trying to exploit my mom financially, and because he cares about her and respects my parents, he's warned them to stay out of it. After everything, my parents and I made a decision. My mom will give a lump sum of money for her biological mother's care. Whether they put her in a nursing home or hire a caregiver is their problem. She will also have a final conversation with her brothers to make it clear that she's not going to care for their mother because that woman was never a mother to her. Once Maria gets divorced, which my parents want to support her through, we expect the relationship with the brothers to fall apart. My mom is still sad that she never found the ideal family she always imagined, but she feels lucky to have her sister Maria and her nephew, whom she truly loves. As for the wedding, we've decided to invite them to avoid drama. I think it's best to keep things civil, especially since I know this is hard for my mom. I feel terrible for ever doubting my grandparents, the ones who actually raised my mom. They were amazing, kind, and compassionate people who helped so many others in the US. Everything they had was earned through hard work. I'm so grateful they adopted my mom, and I wish they had taken in my aunt as well. Am I the jerk for leaving when my fiancé introduced me as a bookkeeper? I, female 45, have a fiancé, male 55, who is a retired military officer. I own a successful company I started 7 years ago and have a small staff of 25. I worked my way through college, paying as I went. Therefore, I graduated in my early 30s with a double major in accounting and business management. I'm very proud of that. For a little background, I worked hard for my degrees and I have zero debt. I know it took me longer than the typical student going full-time to college after high school. I worked full-time to pay as I took classes. I went to junior college first, then finished at a 4-year. I took 2 classes per semester for a long time, but I finally made it. I've been teased that junior college isn't the same as going 4 years to a major university. Well, I'm proud to have done both and feel the education I received at junior college was excellent. I worked as an accountant for some large corporations as well as programming and IT. I started my company doing similar support to large and small companies alike. I have a wonderful staff. I manage the contracts, kickoff meetings, sales and consulting staff. I also do some of the consulting and most of the sales and contracts. My sister is my office manager, and I'm blessed in so many ways to have her. I was dating my now fiancé before I started my company, and we recently got engaged. Everything seemed to be perfect, except he keeps introducing me as a bookkeeper. No disrespect intended to them or the profession. My issue is that I've worked hard to get to where I am. I'm an accountant, graduate with a double major, and a successful business owner. He could pick almost any other title to introduce me as, but he chooses bookkeeper. I've asked him many times in private to stop calling me a bookkeeper, as it implies to my clients and business associates that he doesn't respect me or what I have accomplished. He said he doesn't see the big deal or the difference and continues to do so. I recently pulled him aside and asked him to just introduce me as a consultant at the event we were going to. While there, we were talking to a prospective client for my company, and he says, "She's come a long way for a bookkeeper." I know my face had a fall blush at that, excused myself, and walked away. We had both driven there, so I got in my car and went home. We both have our own townhomes. I sent him a text to let him know that I was leaving and I would talk to him later. He thinks I'm overreacting. My family thinks he's a controlling jerk that doesn't respect me, but not sure what to think now. He seems so supportive when we are together, but not when we are around other people. He tends to treat me like a subordinate, nice kid, playing with the adults. He does talk down to me in front of my family, but I always assumed he was joking badly. So, am I the jerk for leaving and overreacting? Not the jerk. This man is military. He understands what titles are and why they matter, and he's doing this on purpose. ETA, your family thinks he's a controlling jerk that doesn't respect you? If you love and respect the opinions of your family in other circumstances, and you trust them to have your best interests at heart, then you should always listen when they say things like this to you. In the end, you get to make your own choices, but when you have a loving family, the chances of them saying this without meaning it are really slim. The people who love us can see what we can't, and they want what's best for us. She's come a long way for a bookkeeper? That is what's called a backhanded compliment. It sounds nice enough if you don't think about it, but its whole purpose is to knock you down a peg and make sure you don't believe in yourself more than you believe in him. You're definitely not the jerk. You've attempted healthy communication multiple times, and he continues to refer to you in a way that's belittling and disrespectful of all that you've accomplished. He can no longer play the clueless card. You've made it very clear how this is affecting you. I think your family is right. If you enjoyed these stories, you'll love the next one. So click right here to come join us, and we'll see you when you get there.